Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Bryon?
Hey Rosh, happy to be here. We are two creative guys talking AI. And I want to talk about some things that I did this week on our channel here on YouTube. Kling had a very, very impressive feature that kind of was one of the best outputs I've gotten to date of a
Nice.
image to video supplement something else in, and it was so clean and so good. And to me, Kling is still kind of the king of the hill there.
Yeah.
And with that, have the conversation of who makes Kling, and just a little more of an open conversation about it, just because something isn't made here in the US doesn't mean that we should value it less.
Sure.
Yeah, and then there's been some news, some stuff going on here with Google to where maybe it's losing some of its market share, and some of the tide's starting to turn a little bit here. Going towards OpenAI and going towards, say, Bing and some of these different search engines. So just talking to our creatives out there who are helping companies and making sure that they're not putting all their eggs in one basket there on just Google SEO, and they're starting to develop their plan towards what's going to happen.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, there's
What do you have going
definitely
on,
some
my friend?
areas to chat about there. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to talk about AI glasses and how
Yeah.
they're going to incorporate into our daily lives.
Hmm.
And it's a good conversation to have. And I have some examples of how and why this will work. And then I want to get into the future of avatars.
Yeah.
Avatars are really big. There was a big update in one of the major players, and I did a test on that during the week, and it looked good. So
Yeah, I was going to say, I watched your video. I thought it was awesome. I'm glad you're talking about that a bit more. It's great.
thanks. All right, what
Cool.
do you got?
All right. So yeah, Kling. So Kling had I did a video talking about its multi effects unit, or multi elements, my apologies.
Hmm.
Where what we're doing is you take it's got to be 5 seconds or less of a video, and you have a very specific element in that video that you actually go into an editor and select that element, and you see it glows green. It fully understands that it's something in this photo. And then you upload an extra image, and then you give it in the prompt, hey, in image X, take the dinosaur and replace it with, replace the chicken in video Y.
Right.
And have it kind of run with it. And Pika's done this for a little bit. I know
Yeah,
you've done some videos in the past on that,
absolutely.
and it's good. I always say Pika's like that B plus student. That's
Yep.
always kind of good enough. Skates by with that 3.0 GPA. But Kling is kind of that all-star student in this world. I mean, I would definitely put them as the A student. And the fact that Kling is now starting to roll out some of these specialty features
Right.
is really exciting. And at the end of the video that I put up yesterday, I did this one where I wanted Kling to make everything. So what I did was I first actually went to ChatGPT and asked for a really good description for Kling to make a super realistic video of a helicopter going across like a desert.
Okay.
And I wanted the sunset, I wanted golden hour, I wanted there to be a wash of the dust underneath it, and I wanted a dynamic camera angle that started behind the helicopter and like went in front of it, and it nailed it perfectly. It was an awesome looking video. And oftentimes if I really want to get a good prompt, I will pop on over to my favorite LLM, Gemini or ChatGPT, and I'll say, hey, I'm using this specific program. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Give me your best prompt. And allow my LLM to come up with the prompt for me, so that way it's better and it knows the order of things and exactly how to prompt certain programs better. And so that's a strategy in itself that I like to use.
So
Not to mention,
you used another image to replace the first image, right?
right? Yes.
Yeah. Because
So
I did it with a prompt in the editor, and it was a
yeah.
lady walking a husky, and I said change the dog to a chicken, and
Mhm.
basically it became a chicken dog. And I got four
Nice.
versions of the chicken
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah. So
So,
this is
but
a
that was
step
just purely
beyond that.
prompt without an
Right.
actual image.
Right. So when I took my, first I had my video that I created with the prompt, and then I had ChatGPT give me another prompt for the image that I wanted Kling to create.
Okay.
And then when I did the multi element, I actually, instead of uploading, I went to my history at Kling and I chose the last video I created, which I knew was going to be 5 seconds on the dot. It was going to follow the right file size. It was going to play nicely in the sandbox, if you will.
Right.
And then I went to my image and then I clicked my history of all the images that I've created with Kling. Because again, Kling, we might not talk about it as an image creator, but it's right up there with
Yeah, it is.
Leonardo
It's actually
and
pretty
all
good.
them. It's super good. But, some of the other ones are free and I don't have to use my credits. I'll use some of the other ones. But for the sake of this example, and in the video, I actually showed step by step of how to do this. And, Kling, as you know, when it's time to make a video in Kling, it can take 3 to 5 minutes sometimes of
Oh
processing.
yeah,
It
right.
doesn't just bang it out right away, which in some ways I kind of respect. I want it to take the time because with that time, I assume the quality, and it's been every much, as much there. And so I had this really cool image of a UFO over a scene where the blue beam was coming down, getting ready to beam someone up. And it was your kind of classic circular
Yeah.
UFO, like a disc, and then windows and stuff all the way around. So it took this and it made it look so realistic in this new scene
Mm.
where the golden hour lighting. So say the camera started behind the helicopter in the beginning, but now the UFO, the camera started behind it, so it was all kind of dark. And then as the camera had that dynamic movement to go in front of it, it was lit up in the golden hour, type of way. And what I also loved is that it kept the beam from the bottom of the UFO going down and hitting the ground. And then
Oh.
when the beam hit the ground, it actually made the beam like kind of explode outward a little bit
Huh.
in like a realistic kind of way. And none of that was in the image that I uploaded.
Right.
So it not only took the new thing that I uploaded, but it applied it to the scene and made it make sense
Yeah.
in
Wow.
such an impressive way. And it didn't look glitchy. It didn't have all sorts of hallucinations. Like I did one in the video where I took my brother's dogs running in the backyard, reminded me of one that you did with dogs running in the yard. And I swapped out the dogs for like a robot.
Yeah.
And the robot looked fine, but the background was super glitchy and
Oh,
distorted, and because it was taking a real video that I uploaded. Whereas here, I was kind of feeding Kling its own output to
okay.
then manipulate again. And that is definitely a strategy for the audience to try to do is, try to keep it in the same AI so it doesn't have to think an extra step of being like, oh, this is a Pika video, but I'm going to interpret it as Kling, or this is a real video from a cell phone, which, again, worked great. I did a video of my son in our chicken coop, and I replaced the chickens with a dragon. And mostly I did this as a little gift for my wife for Mother's Day because she loves dragons. And I was like, here, hon, now we have a dragon, at least virtually. And
Nice.
that one did fine. It didn't really mess up the background of the video or anything. But again, my camera wasn't super dynamic. It was pretty stationary.
Yeah.
So the one where I was chasing my brother's dogs, they're two chocolate labs running in the backyard going crazy. So my camera wasn't so stationary. So when it's supplemented in the robot, the background was very distorted. So it was like kind of my only fail in the mix.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from just playing with it and learning, which inputs to get it to get a real high quality output. I know you love Kling as well. Have you
Yeah.
messed with this feature at all?
Just a little bit. Not as much as you. I really want to get into it to that specific feature. I
Right.
have played with a variation in the editor, and that's where I got my chicken dog.
Yeah.
And so, but no, not to the extent you have. But I'm
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
forward to it because I think I'm going to do a couple of videos related to all that. So,
Right. I mean, if I'm going to give it a grade out of 10, it was at least a 9.5. I mean, it
wow,
was that
that's a high recommendation.
That's solid. I mean, only thing that it could have done better is maybe made the UFO look like it was spinning. So it was, just a disc moving forward. But we don't know. Do they spin?
Yeah,
I mean, what's
yeah.
the
I
last
mean,
one you
did you
saw?
you
Who
didn't
knows?
ask it? And
I
a lot
didn't,
of
right?
times when I'm
That's true.
reviewing these, I say, man, I would have liked it to do this, but I didn't ask it to do that. So,
Right.
you're leaving it up to the interpretation of the AI from that point if you
Right.
don't ask
Yeah.
for something.
Yeah, precisely. So, well, I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about AI glasses. I wonder if, in going forward, like say the band Tool, they don't allow you to bring cell phones into their concerts because they don't want things recorded. Are
Yeah,
you going to have to check your glasses at the door
you
soon?
just might have to.
Yeah.
Google announced their glasses uh, not that long ago, maybe a couple months ago. And I mean, they did Google Glass way back in the day, but these are more. functional kind of glasses that they've announced, and I'm really looking forward to them. Meta has their glasses that they've had
Hmm.
out for a while, and I know, and I even think Zuckerberg's been like, the cell phone's going away, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Say, no, no, it very well may be in some form,
Well, the Apple
because
Watches are big. That's a way of
yeah,
kind
I
of
mean, the
moving the
thing
cell
is,
phone away.
you just wear them on your face and you walk around. For example, over the weekend, I had a couple problems with some of the things I was working around in the yard. And I just pulled out my phone and I, asked, oh, do you see this? And how, oh, yeah, here are a few ideas on how you can fix this. Had you thought of this and that? And it's really interactive. They're getting a lot better. And actually, before the show today, I went out into my back 40 there and I had a few trees that I wanted to identify. And I pulled out
Hmm.
the phone and said, hey, what's this? And what's that, Barry? And so forth. And it's much more conversational than it's ever
Hmm.
been before
Yeah.
with the AI. That was specifically with ChatGPT, but Google's actually pretty good at that too. And you think about it, quite honestly, I mean, if I just had glasses, I mean, our friend who's a good friend of the show, Tony, there's Montana Tony, and then there's local Tony. This is local Tony who works
Nice.
in the world of AI. And he works in augmented reality for
Oh,
years.
cool.
And he's been showing me glasses and things because he works in the manufacturing area where they actually use these glasses to help people fix things on the line. They've been doing this like 3, 4, 5 years. I mean,
Oh,
he
that's great.
travels all around to do this,
Okay,
and
cool.
it's really pretty cool. But you know, I have like VR glasses and or goggles, and they're okay. But I always thought, this is not people are not going to walk around with these big things,
Yeah,
right? But
exactly.
little glasses, little black glass, just Wayfair type glasses on your face, walking around, and all you have to do is, answer the phone. Hey, hey
Yeah.
Google, or ChatGPT, or whatever you want to name your my Google just went off. Or whatever you want to call your AI, it's right there. And you can say, What kind of tree is that? How can I fix this? You know,
Yeah.
not only, okay, oh, I need this piece. Can you order that for me?
Right.
And it's a lot easier if it's just on your face and you're talking versus holding up the phone. I had to hold up my phone, turn it on, and hold
Right.
my phone up to show the AI, which is amazing, absolutely amazing to have
Right.
that
Let's not overlook
interaction.
that.
Because
Yeah.
now I turn it on. It's, hey, what's up? Oh, you see that tree over there? I'm trying to figure out what kind of tree is it. Oh, let me see the leaves. Oh, okay. Well, here's a this and that. Oh, there you go. That was this signature key to what kind of tree it was, and it's this type of tree. And
Yeah.
and then I even asked, here's an area over here. What kind of tree would work well? It's kind of wet over here. It's, oh, here's a list of trees that would work great in Michigan.
Wow.
And then I came back to the house and something that I wanted to try that I tried before, that it was fine over a half hour, but after a half hour it forgot. And that was when I was coming up to the fence. I said, hey, do you remember who this is? And she goes, "Oh, that's Holly. That's my white husky." Then you're and I say, "Okay, well, she was calling everybody Holly before. How about this one? Well, that's Hazel." And then who's back
Okay.
there? Oh, that's Harold back there. It's been months since I've shown. And I even think it's been since the holidays.
That's very impressive. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And so it
Yeah.
remembers all my dogs' names from 6 months ago, where
Yeah.
during that time, an hour later, she had forgotten.
Yeah.
So
So,
go ahead.
yeah, incredible with these glasses to think, that soon you're just going to have them on your face, maybe just, gesture, say a word, press a button, and you'll be in that interactive mode.
Exactly.
And, probably you'll be able to hear through bone conduction, right on the head there,
Sure.
which, that's great. I can imagine being at a Tigers game and watching the game and imagine seeing the pitch speed in real time because you're watching
Sure.
with the glasses, like just things like that to make these games, make things like that more interactive. Now another question for you. Do you know if they're using technology to detect exactly where your eyes are looking within the
Oh,
glasses?
absolutely. I mean, they do that in the goggles, so I'm sure they're
Yeah.
going to do that in the glasses. I'm sure all that's going to be
Amazing.
there. But the more than anything, for the creative,
Hmm.
this is the creative AI show. I mean, those glasses are going to be your creative collaborator. You don't have
Yeah.
to turn anything on. If you're a sculptor, you can think, what should I do next? What are a few ideas? What do you think? And base them off of the kind of work I've done before. Or do you
Mm.
remember a year ago I was creating something and I said, remember this, when I'm doing that? I mean, things like that. It could be your memory
Yeah.
and help you collaborate in any kind of way you want, from a completely generic, like, hey, I'm just totally looking for new ideas, to help me remember some of the ideas that I wanted to apply to my next project. I
Yeah,
mean,
my
the collaboration's
creative
amazing.
brain right now is going off like fireworks. I'm imagining, on the music side of things, imagine seeing a band that you love or an up and
Yeah,
coming band that you've never seen before. And just they're into a part that you really love and hey, I'd like to create something like this. Just
right.
be like, "Hey, remember this." And then it can listen and maybe even understand chord progressions and understand different things about the music. And then when you get back, 2 days later and you've got your guitar and you're sitting there, you're like, "Hey, what remind me about that, third song that the band played this night and the mood and the feel of it and give me some inspiration in that way," and using it as a collaborative tool rather than just our, shady
Yeah, I
memories.
just saw something recently about Quincy Jones, who did something. It was all by hand, obviously, but
Mhm.
he would like just go through and find all the hit songs and really keep note of what people were doing, so he could produce in a modern way what people were listening to and what
Right.
people liked.
Yeah.
And he did that, and but obviously he just had files. But now that file can be in your glasses or stored on a
Right.
hard drive somewhere, do a dump somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah.
So much is coming at us in the next few years. It's going to be amazing, which hopefully will make you more creative and more productive.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not worried about the details of, how to make things work so much. You're just worried more about creating.
Yes.
And, this reminds me of something someone said in my BNI group where it's like all workers have green zones, yellow zones, and red zones. So shout to you, Christopher, on this concept and theory. I know it's in a book that you read, but, maybe me going out on site and taking pictures is in my green zone.
Yeah.
But the act of sitting at my computer and taking out the SD card and putting it into my computer and uploading it and getting it to Dropbox, maybe that's in my yellow or my red zone. And what if there are ways to be able to make those types of things happen quicker so I can focus more on my green zone and being creative and using these photos or doing different things like that.
Right.
And yeah, so it's really cool all the ways the technology is going to help fill the gap to make sure that we can focus just on being creative and maybe not mentally exhausting ourselves with the overwhelming amount of steps that it takes to, say, produce YouTube videos like this or podcasts and stuff.
Right.
Cut out the work that you're not so keen on doing.
Absolutely. And that's in theory supposed to be the magic of AI coming at us,
Yes,
allowing us to be
exactly.
taking everything to another level, because all the base stuff will be, well, taken
Yeah.
care of for us.
Well, and that's the optimistic point of view that we both, try to bring to this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's exciting. That's cool.
All right. What do you got next?
All right, so you might want to earmuffs here a little bit. I know you're Mr. Google SEO. You know Google front and back. You can call Mr. Google on the phone, but its market share dropped under 90% for the first time in over a decade now.
Yeah.
And there's some competitors at its heels. I mean, obviously, Google's still king. It's going to be king for a while. And I don't put past the power of Google to make sure that Gemini, especially with Gemini 2.0, it's so good. So I'll preface this conversation by saying, hey, Google's not going anywhere. But we still might want to plan in your 2 to 5 year plan for, if you are a digital creator for a company and stuff, about the steps to take to make sure that you're staying relevant as people might use ChatGPT or Perplexity or different things like that for more of the generative engine search rather than search engine optimization. And, just some advice in that kind of world. So, it's, and I'll do a little, plug here for social media, but social media is a very important part of this, of, maintaining your reputation and making sure that you are interacting with people who have commented on your stuff and getting that good positive feeling. That's going to be way more important than just keywords or certain, different things. So, one of the things that it says is, using social media as a trust signal, not just a megaphone. So, most brands must interact, answer questions, build community so AI sees them as credible and active in their space. So, and just because you had killer social media 2 years ago, it doesn't mean that the search engine, the generative engine is going to consider you where there might be 10 competitors of yours who are current and good at it right now.
Right.
So, investing in social proof and digital reputation, making sure that, your presence is good across all of the internet. So not just your Google listing is good, making sure that your LinkedIn listing is good, your Yelp listing, your other ones, making sure all that's consistent and good and all building to your collective reputation online
Right.
instead of putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So, this is a conversation I wanted to crack
Yeah.
open and kind
So
of hand
I have
off to you.
plenty to say. I was letting you
Please,
get your stuff
please.
out first there. So, you said just, not just under 90% and then name all the other players for that last 10%, chopping it
Mhm.
up. So, yes, and this will continue to happen. They will continue to grow in terms of importance. Google will come down, but that's because even Google is eating its own with its AI, giving
Mhm.
you those quick answers, right?
Right.
What's going to happen, and this is what I've been telling clients, is that what's going to be affected are the blogs,
Mm.
not so much the business.
Okay.
So if you think of it
Good
this
point.
way, your blog, yeah, it's going to be cannibalized by the AIs. They're gonna when somebody has a question, they're gonna want information. And yes, you can be a source and a resource. And fortunately, many of them are showing you their sources, and hopefully they continue that pattern. And you may get some traffic from that, but ultimately, you're just going to be the source of information.
Hmm.
Being a good source of information using statistics and so forth, that's going to make you more relevant because general stuff just isn't going anywhere anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing though, when somebody has a question about how something is made, they're just going to get an answer, from the AI. But
Hmm.
if if they want to ask about, what is horsepower in a car, okay? Now, in the past, somebody may have written a blog on their website to attract people who are interested in what is horsepower for a car, and then they go to your website and read your blog.
Hmm.
Now, so those people are going to slowly go away more and more and more and not go to your blog. They may go to social,
Yep.
but when they are ready to buy the car, they're going to go to the website. So
Yep.
what's going to happen is that com in the .com is going to be commercial again. And so there's going to be less traffic online for general stuff, but when people want to buy, you need to be optimized. You need to do all the things you said.
Yeah.
So you will be the one of the top people surfaced when people are ready to buy. So I've been telling clients, look, you're going to get less traffic, but you're going to get higher quality traffic
Right. Yeah.
moving forward.
Higher
So
intent
that's
is very
that's the deal.
important. Yeah. Great. I love it. Thank you for, filling in the gaps there and my knowledge and perspective on that. But, I think it's important for us to talk about now and be ahead of that curve. And then, when it happens in 3 years, they're going to be like, hey, those creative AI guys knew what they were talking about. So, all right, throwing it back to you. Your avatar video was awesome. Talk about the
Thank
future of
you. Yeah.
avatars. Yeah.
So HeyGen has been a player for quite a while um, when it comes to avatars and turning photos into avatars and lip syncing along the way. A lot of there's companies who build their business around HeyGen.
Okay. Wow.
Even 8 year ago, I knew people who were a big part of their business was creating these avatars that talk and are video. So they upload a image of the CEO and write something out, maybe sample their voice and do a whole video, and it very natural. And they updated to version 4, and it was really good. I mean, I tested the limits, in the last one didn't go with a
Okay.
tongue twister for the dragon, but
Yeah.
the other ones were really pretty good.
Right.
And I was very happy with it. And they have more than just this one feature. They have many different tools, a suite of tools available as it comes to avatars. And this is going to be very common. People are creating videos right now or in the future. These avatars will be your face to the community. and
Right.
we will be connected to AI, and an AI that's trained to be you. You're gonna train it, and
Yeah.
maybe you want to test it a little bit, ask it some
Yeah.
questions and see how it comes back. But for the most part, that's going to allow you to have conversations, say, with multiple clients at once or prospects. Um, and
Yeah.
people will feel like, oh, okay, I'm getting, I mean, they may know it's an avatar, but they'll know that they're getting the right, they're going to feel like it's more of a personal touch. You
Hmm.
could have an avatar that could go through campaign results, or here are the statistics, and it'd just be me talking like this, with my hands flying all over the place, but talking about the statistics they're looking at, and then being able to follow up, and then me being able to say, oh, okay, and if I don't know, let me talk to the real Rosh. But
Yeah.
for the most part, that's the kind of thing that's going to happen more and more.
Well, that's fascinating because people learn in different styles, and we're
Yeah.
currently in the podcast generation. And hence the reason why we're putting in the effort doing this now. So people can learn much better from maybe an avatar talking to them or a podcast back and forth conversation, much better than they can by looking at a one pager
Yeah.
or reading a textbook or a research paper or anything. I kind of had a little bit of a win this weekend, something that passed the S test, if you will.
Yeah, let's hear about that.
But yeah. So I used Google LM. So I had a meeting with a big client that we share,
Yep.
and they were about 8 minutes late to the meeting, and I was like, you know what? Rosh mentioned to me this program a little bit ago. Thank you for texting me back so quickly and confirming
Hmm.
which program it was. And I had a 5 or 6 page publication that goes out monthly that they've got. They deep dive down a certain hole in the insurance world, and it was really cool to be able to in 2 minutes produce a 13-minute spoken word podcast solely based on the intellectual material that I uploaded
Yeah.
and have it to have the real yeah back and forth telling little jokes, the pauses, the different things that if those aren't there, you're not going to pass the S test. You're not going
Right.
to get it to people to where they believe it's a real conversation. Now on the other half of that, we discussed that, hey, we're not going to sell this as a real podcast because people listen to podcasts because of the credentials of the hosts
Sure.
and the rapport that they've built. So it's like, all right, let's flip the script on this and sell it as an alternative form of digesting information.
Right.
So say your house burns down and you're going to work with a public adjuster to try to get you more cash for what your house is worth. They typically would have maybe a video they'd send a prospective client, or maybe a 4 page PDF of, hey, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to come up. I think there's a percentage of the population that would love to listen to a 12-minute conversation of people saying, hey, you're in this situation right now, this is what's going to happen, and having a conversation like that. You're at least listening to a conversation,
Sure.
but we'll get to the point where it can be a real avatar where you can ask it questions in real time. It'll analyze the uploaded source material and you can have a conversation with the
Yeah.
AI, not necessarily need to have whomever on the phone explaining
Right.
to you step by
And
step.
I mean, you can do that now at some level. And I
Yeah.
mean, not the avatar scenario is not as strong.
Right.
Although I think HeyGen's getting pretty close in some areas. But I mean, so those are pre-programmed, and you can do different voices and so forth,
Yeah.
so you can upload, but you can have the do the conversational part or type in. And I mean, like you said, different people interact or learn differently. And so
Right.
if you give them the different choices, some people like text, some people want to listen, some people want to do visual.
Yeah. Yeah. Just giving people the options of how to learn. I mean, that's going to be one of the big steps in the future here for the
Yeah,
creatives.
very good. Excellent. Hey,
Awesome.
well, you've been listening to two creative guys talking AI. I think we got a lot of AI in this week.
We did. Yeah. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.